the worryingly beautiful and scrumptious Renee Young.
Oh, that is easily the best introduction I've ever got. I don't know if it was like the accent. It was the accent combined with the word scrumptious. No one's ever called me scrumptious.
It's the greatest word, isn't it?
It's fantastic.
Are you a fan of the British accent?
Oh God, yeah.
Thanks very
yes.
much. Thanks very much.
I don't understand how somebody couldn't be. I mean, it's charming. It's eloquent.
It's sexy.
Very sexy. Yeah, sexy, endearing, charming. All of those things.
Well, that's the best intro I've ever had.
There you go.
So thank you for that.
Tit for tat.
Tit for tat. Now, Renee Young, you are the WWE superstar who gets to interview all the other superstars, but you're rarely interviewed yourself.
I know, it's
So I
weird.
thought this was a really good opportunity. I specifically requested this interview.
You did?
I did. I promise you I did.
Because you just want to call me scrumptious.
Yes.
We just want to have this face-to-face introduction.
Yes.
I feel like it's cool. I like being on the other side of being interviewed, but at some point I might flip the script a little bit and just throw questions back at you.
Okay, this could be interesting.
Stay on your toes.
Okay, I will. Right, so you started your career as a sports show host on The Score in Canada, but I understand it was comedy acting that was your first kind of love. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that was a thing just like growing up, watching Kids in the Hall, SCTV, SNL, like watching all that stuff really was a big part of my childhood. And then it didn't even really dawn on me until like right after high school. I went and did Second City and did all the comedy stuff there, and then got into doing like some method acting and sitting around in Canada waiting to be like girl number 3 at the bar wasn't really panning out for me. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go be a TV host because I can just take a camera and I just need myself and I can just come up with some stuff and see how that goes. So yeah, I kind of got into hosting from that, but it was really doing comedy and stuff that made me want to be a bit of a professional jackass.
And could you traditionally, men are funnier than women? Is that fair to say? Or is that an awful thing to say?
It is an awful thing to say,
yeah.
But it is, I think that's a common misconception.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because I was watching, there's a documentary, I think it's on Netflix, about like women not being funny. And I started to watch it.
There's even a documentary about it.
Yeah, because I mean, people assume that and people think that. But when you look at, you know, the last 2 times, I mean, with the late show or late night show going away and having Letterman going out, that people were like, oh, we're going to bring in Chelsea Handler. Could it be Tina Fey? And it's the same with the Daily Show now too. It's like all these women are now all of a sudden being considered for these massive roles. So I think that is something that is going away. Because anyway, so I started to watch a documentary and then I turned it off because I realized that that's stupid and that's just, I don't think that should be a thing anymore. I think women are very funny.
And so what was it about comedy that you really gravitated towards?
Making people laugh is the best.
Really?
Making people laugh, but also like I have a very self-deprecating style of humor that I think
not a lot of Americans do.
They don't, and it's
Canadian,
weird.
Anyway.
Exactly, but that's like, I think in Canada and in the UK, it's like they're very similar styles of humor. It's very dry.
Yeah.
Self-depreciating is definitely one of those qualities that, like, I mean, watching Little Britain was one of my favorite shows as well.
Oh, really?
Like, oh my God, it's funny. I just realized I was cleaning up my apartment and found a Little Britain coffee table book that I had that's just like filled.
I saw a tweet about that.
Yeah. I was so happy when I found that. Yeah, anyways, doing comedy is just something that I love. Making people laugh, being able to have fun, poke fun at myself. I really just wanted to find a job where I could get paid to have a good time.
Yeah.
You know?
Doesn't everyone?
Yeah, hook me up with that, please. I'll just have a good time.
And you also appeared in a Kelly Clarkson video. Mm-hmm. Was this during your time in Hollywood?
No, this is actually, I was still in Toronto at this time. That was actually the first job that I ever booked. Wow. And I was really freaking out about it. Because I actually did like a bunch of weird music videos. I did like the Kelly Clarkson one. I did one with Tom Green forever ago, which I booked by doing The Running Man for the audition. Okay. I had to go in and they're like, but they wanted girls to be like actually sexy and like pretty and like look like nice girls. Yeah. I don't do that well. I'm like, what do you want? Why is this girl in a bikini? I don't understand. So I went in and did The Running Man and they're like, that'll work.
That's awesome.
Perfect. There's nothing worse than walking into a room where people are staring at you and they're like, can you dance for us? Like,
it's a weird thing, the audition process, isn't it?
It's awful.
It's a really weird thing.
Yeah, it's super weird.
Awkward.
I'm so glad I don't really have to do that much anymore.
Yeah.
Thank God. It's horrible.
Any musical kind of bones in your body? Can you sing, for example?
I can carry a tune.
Go
yes.
on. Go on.
No,
Why not?
because that's the second worst. That's actually worse than someone asking
just
you
asked
to
you to
dance.
audition, haven't I?
Or if
That's
someone's
bad.
like, "Oh, you think you're funny? Tell me a joke." It's like, what? No, I can't do that. I'm not that kind of a skilled individual.
I'll scrap my next question. Tell us a joke.
And gone.
Actually, let's lose a lot of these questions.
Yeah, I mean, I can carry a tune, but that's it. I tried to learn to play guitar one time, but my hands,
Okay.
I've got like these little carny hands that aren't great for playing a guitar. But I grew up in the music industry. My dad is a concert promoter. So that was a big thing for me all growing up. He used to work with Anne Murray, who's this big Canadian songstress legend. He worked with her for a long time, and now he works for Live Nation. So I've always been around music, hanging out at concert venues, and like hanging out in road cases and stuff as a kid, just killing time.
And
waiting to go home.
so that brings us to WWE. I hear that through the connections your dad had, he brought you backstage at some WWE events. Is that true?
He did. Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I mean, what kid didn't go to a party and want to like tombstone somebody on the front lawn? Like that was a big part of my childhood for a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah, but yeah, he was working at the Sky Dome in Toronto, which is now the Rogers Centre. But he was working there and then brought me backstage, and I got to meet The Rock and Stone Cold and Chyna and Mick Foley. I need to find those pictures somewhere because I feel like there's pictures floating around of like a 12-year-old me in like an oversized winter coat, just like having a great time hanging out with all these people. But it does exist somewhere, and it was awesome.
Because I saw a picture of you with Steve Austin. I think it was maybe at the SummerSlam panel show,
Yeah.
and you looked very pleased to be with him, as though there was a bit of history there.
Well, you know, there's really not any history because he would not remember that I was just some random kid. Hey, Mr. Stone Cold Steve Austin. So not any history there, but I love Stone Cold Steve Austin.
He's a legend, isn't he?
He's a legend, but he's such a cool dude.
Yeah.
You see him backstage, and he's exactly who you think that he would be.
He's so comfortable in his own skin.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He knows who he is.
But it was really funny because last time he was here, he was talking to somebody, and I walked up to say hi to him, and like we had like this weird like interaction where like we had like a hug, but then he would like treat me like I was his daughter almost, and like gave me like a little like, "How you doing, kid?" And I was like, "I'm gonna go now." But it was great. He's awesome. I love Stone Cold.
And so were you a legit fan growing up?
I was a legit fan growing up when I was a kid. You know, I watched it, but mostly because it was like the fad that like kids in my school were watching, and it was like a big part of what we were doing and paying attention to. I stopped watching for a bit. I played sports a lot growing up, so that was always my main thing. I never really spent too much time watching TV. But then, when I started working at the Score, which I actually went to work at the Score because they did these very tongue-in-cheek style interviews, like man on the street kind of stuff, and I was like, ooh, that's something I could do, and I didn't even really know too much about sports, but I winged it. And and they asked me to do a wrestling show within a couple months.
Sierra Hotel, India, Echo, Lima, Delta, Shield.
Once again, justice has been served at NXT. We are the Shield, the most dominant, efficient force in the history of this company. We run Raw, we run SmackDown, and now and forever, we run NXT. Shield. Shield. Remember me? It's Graves. I don't believe in the Shield. And if you think you're gonna run around roughshod on NXT, well, you're wrong. Because NXT is my personal wasteland, not yours. You guys have cost me the NXT title twice, and I'm not gonna put up with it anymore. So I don't care which one of you decides to show up next week, but I'm gonna put you down, and you're gonna stay down. I started this with Corey Graves. I will finish it with Corey Graves. You guys can take the night off. Graves wants me one-on-one. And at the end of the night, just like everybody else, when he's laying flat on the mat, Corey Graves will believe in the Shield.
I'm gonna put you down, and you're gonna stay down.